Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Kensington Wine Market's latest bourbon tasting. My name is Evan. With me, of course, for the bourbon side of things, as always, is Harmony. We tend to pair on these things. This one is, what are we doing today? It's the high proof bourbon tasting, high proof and cask strength bourbon.
Proof and cask strength.
Yeah, so everything between 50 and 60% alcohol today for the lineup. Harmony and I tasted through the lineup and sort of set an order back on Thursday, I think it was last week. But really excited for this one. It's a little bit more straightforward than the bourbon tastings we've been doing recently, where this one is not blind. We actually just put one label on there telling you what we're pouring this time around. And for the most
So
part,
boring. So boring.
just
We're hoping the
plain.
high alcohol content will make up for that lack of excitement you're all feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll help a little bit. But yeah, it should be a fun lineup. It was my first time tasting them when we sort of set the lineup for I think 6 of the 8 whiskeys. I think at least a couple were new to you as well, Harmony. But there's a couple we put in here just because we've been excited about them. Harmony with the Laws 4 grain, she's been talking it up quite a bit. There just so happened to be a Little Book release that's recent, so it made sense to put that in. And we're both excited to revisit the Still Austin cask strength as well, just because there's definitely been some batch variation on it, so we want to see what this one's like. Before we get into things, though, I should share my screen and show you guys what else is coming up, because we do have a few more things that have just been launched on our website and tasting schedule. So I'll run through everything here, starting in later October next week. Just a week from now, we still have tickets left and tasting kits left for the signatory 35th anniversary tasting. Not surprising, this is because this is an expensive tasting. It's $250 for a kit, but man, oh man, is this a great lineup. 3 44 plus year old, being 44, 45, and 48 years old, a 32-year bottling of Highland Park and Mortlock, 18-year-old Macallan, and a 21-year-old Bravel. I am super excited to hopefully sit in on this one and taste those Bunnahabhains. I love 40-plus-year-old Bunnahabhain, and it's so rare that I get to try it. So that's going to be a treat. Upcoming after that, we've got some wine tastings, of course, if you're in town, where you can come down to the store. Next virtual after that is the Black Tot Rums with Mitch Wilson, the brand ambassador for Black Tot, talking about the series and its Navy influences on the rum that they make. That'll be a lot of fun. SMWS November tastings are up. I didn't realize that. That's good to see. So we haven't tried these yet, so we haven't even set the order, but man, time's just flying in October here. I guess we'll be doing that later this week.
I'll be pouring that probably tomorrow.
That's right. And just because we're really tight for November in tastings, we're actually starting these on Wednesday, October 30th for the virtual. And then if you want to turn the lights off and pretend you're not at home, and not be at home, you can join us for October 31st at the Kensington Wine Market for the in-store tasting, and then we have another one on November 1. After that, we have the unconventional blends tasting. This will be a pretty cool lineup. Always fun to revisit that Flaming Heart, and Cadenhead's Enigma series is really, really neat as well. If you haven't tried the 25, it's a great value. And then it's actually centered around 4 blends from Compass Box that not as many people are aware of, because they were released through the La Maison du Whiskey. Not as much of it came into Canada, but it'll be fun to try 4 of the 5 that are in that series. Fall Whiskey Festivals, of course, coming up as well. 21-year-old blind tasting. So this is the next blind tasting we have coming up, not a bourbon one. But with 21-year-olds, I think we are doing all Scotch on this one, and not revealing what they are until we taste through the lineup. That'll be a lot of fun as well. Pretty decent price for 21-year-old whiskey on that one too. And then Compass Box, Extinct Blends, Quartet, and Hedonism. 4 different bottlings of Hedonism.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Get to the
Uh,
fun stuff.
yeah, to the fun stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
1990s big go big or go home tasting will be a lot of fun too. Still need to update that photo at some point. I should get around to that. Millstone and Gordon MacPhail tasting in store. And then we get to December. Glen Alecky virtual tasting with 3 new bottlings from them. And then we get into that this is not an advent calendar tastings. We got our hand slapped at the end of just about selling out our whiskey calendars last year. We were told that we cannot sell it as a big kit like that. We told them that it was a tasting and they disagreed. So this time we are breaking it up into 5 separate tastings in 5 separate boxes. So you can just buy 1 to 5 if you want, or you can buy the whole shebang. We do have the full Monty, as we're
Oh,
calling it, where we do put those 5 tasting kits together. We kind of group them up, and it kind of looks like a calendar, but it's not a calendar, if anybody asks. It is absolutely not a
no,
whiskey calendar.
no.
So
This
keep
is
that in
a
mind.
no
We are doing it
fun
the
whiskey tasting.
Yeah, we are doing it the same way we do usually, where it will be blind. They'll be labeled from 1 to 25 if you get the whole series. We will have blog posts on each of the bottlings and stuff as we're going through as well. And we will do the 5-day recap tastings. And since this is the tasting you're purchasing it for, it is on the tasting page. Like I said, not a calendar. It is a series of tastings. So just remember that when you're going to purchase. That is that.
Yeah,
Let's talk some
lots of
bourbon.
events.
Yeah.
Lots of events.
So yeah, this is
Mm.
a bit of a hodgepodge of a bourbon tasting that we're doing that I'm really excited to dive into. We just kind of looked at what was on the shelf and what was becoming available and put something together that we were both excited to talk about. And it turned out they were all 50% and up. So hence the name high proof and cast strength bourbon. Shall we talk Redwood Empire?
Yeah, let's talk Redwood Empire. They're
Yeah.
California is not the first or place that comes to mind for bourbon, but they are putting out some good whiskey. So this is,
Absolutely.
however, the Empire Grizzly Beast bourbon, bottled in bond.
Yeah, so bottled and bond, of course, means it's 50% alcohol. Um, and Redwood Empire, with a lot of their bottlings, they have actually blended their own stock that is made in California from their own distillery, with stock from likely Kentucky and or Indiana as well. Being that this is a bottled in bond bottling, this will have to be entirely their own juice. So it makes it kind of interesting. If you've had their other Redwood stuff, they tend to be really good at blending stuff together. My assumption is there's some red wine cask influence in there, just based on the nose and palate of some of the other ones, but they do some really neat stuff, all with a little bit of a redwood theme to it, because of the location that they're in.
Hmm. Immediately for me, I got hit with like a very heavily covered caramel popcorn, and then it
Yeah,
immediately went into like Swedish berries.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like movie candy for me.
Jeff says he's been a fan of their cast strength rye. Yeah, that's is it the Lost Monarch? No, the Lost
No,
Monarch's the
that's the
blend, isn't it?
whiskey. It's
Yeah,
the rocket.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Skyrocket or something like that. Um,
Yeah, the
yeah,
ryes are
I've
really
liked
good.
most of their stuff. Their stuff does tend to be on a little bit shorter finish wise than some other whiskey on the market, but still is really delicious to drink. One thing that really jumped out at me, nose and palate wise, that I talked about when we tasted this on Thursday, and it's coming to me again, is
This one?
yeah, the nose for me is very much like the birthday cake Timbits. It's very confectionery driven. It's got a little bit of this artificial red fruit note to it.
Yeah,
But it totally reminds me of those birthday cake Timbits.
yeah, I can see that for sure. So do you know, Evan, I couldn't find it. Is this
Yeah,
bottled and by at like a minimum 5-year-old, or have they done anything? Have they gone older with this?
I think it is strictly 5. From
Okay.
what I recall here, I'll bring up our page on it as well. But mm, yeah, lots of red fruit notes again on the palate, like a little bit into cherry, almost like going into maraschino notes and the fake maraschinos that you get in a Shirley Temple. Um, but some Twizzler notes in there for me as well.
Mm. It's
So
like a
this
sweet and
is,
savory.
yeah, this is the Grizzly Beast Bourbon, 123.99, 5-year-old bottled in bonds. And because it's bottled in bond, of course, it is bottled at 50%. A mash bill is 66% corn, 23% rye, 7% wheat, and 4% malted barley. So one of those not as often seen 4-grain mash bills when it comes to bourbon as well. Do you get perhaps a bit more of a toastiness coming off with that wheat? I don't know if I would have picked it up without knowing it was wheat on there though.
No, it's got an okay palate. It definitely feels um like it's a complete whiskey. It's not lacking in anything. There's a little bit of
Yep.
like I feel like it's really balanced. It doesn't feel hot.
No.
Um, there's like you said, there's like a sweetness to it, but there's lots of fruit. I imagine that those red berry notes are probably those Russian River Valley wine casks.
Yeah, it could
But
be.
there's
If they
also
are indeed
just
being used. Yeah.
yeah, if they're using them. I mean, it is a signature for their bourbon, but however, it's
Mhm.
different release, could be different. Um, there's like a hint of savoriness to it occasionally when I
Yep.
just stick my nose in, and it's almost like an orange chicken sauce that's like kind of
Nice.
overcooked for me. Uh,
Yeah, like an orange, like it's become a reduction almost.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
but
Yeah, I
yeah,
could
this
see
is
that. Yeah, Jim says lightest color of the group. It's also
it,
had
it is.
possibly the most water added of the group as well. So that might have something to do with it. Um, but yeah, quite a nice bourbon. There's a little bit of a waxy note and just a touch of like a minerality slash like wet clay note to me right now as well coming off, but still those beautiful red fruit notes in there too.
Very nice. Yeah, that's a nice starter,
Solid
I think.
starter.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's bump up the ABV a level from 50 to 50.5% alcohol for the next one.
Slow
Just going
down.
crazy. Yep.
Whew.
So this is part of a duo of releases that we've seen from High West that we've never seen before up until they hit the shelves a couple months ago. This
This is
is the High West, part of High West Cask collection. It's Petite Sirah cask finish. High West, of course, would be using some of their own whiskey. And then, well, this is actually a blend of straight bourbon and straight rye whiskey, so it's not a full-on bourbon. But it would be a combination of their own whiskey and then stuff they've sourced from likely Kentucky and Illinois again, like High West often does. I've said it before, but I think they are among the best blenders in the US and have been for a long, long time. And this and the other cask finish that we got, which was a Sauvignon Blanc cask finish, two surprising wines to use for cask finishing. Um, I think these ones were essentially done just for Alberta or Canada. There have been some cask collection series in the US, but they've all been kept at a higher strength. These ones were cut down to 50% alcohol, I believe, not 55.5, as I said. But really like the nose on this one. It just totally reminds me of a peanut butter and jam sandwich.
well, that's a good note.
Mhm.
I find it more kind of ashy and
Yeah,
spicy,
does have some
peppery.
char coming through
Yeah,
and some spiciness.
but the like peanut butter, crushed peanuts kind of note I
Yeah.
get. More like a roasted peanut.
Yeah, roasted peanuts is a good call. Still get that red fruit, purple fruit jamminess in there as well. Just trying to think of what kind of jam it is. Almost going into like blackberries for me right now.
Ooh.
A little bit of
I,
cassis in there as well.
I like, yes, I was just thinking that.
Yeah. A touch of like in behind there's like a touch of nail polish
Yeah,
just hiding around.
there is. Yeah, I was thinking more like, I don't know, like a little bit of oil on like a piece of leather, like it's going in
Yeah.
that direction for me.
Well, this is definitely chewier than than the Redwood Empire bottling we tried.
Yeah. Oh, I like the palette. It's like it's big
Yeah.
and full and it's got those like dark fruit, blackberry, black currant, even like the
Yeah.
purple, black plums, like purple skin
Yeah, good call.
and plums for me.
Yeah, it's got a really nice with that chewiness, it's got a nice combination of being like big and slightly drying, but also still being
Mm-hmm.
juicy and spicy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like my gums are drying out, but my tongue is still watering.
Mm-hmm.
Alex says more body than the Redwood, and I didn't expect that from a red wine cast finish. Yeah, it's interesting. And so I wonder how much, like there seems to be quite a bit of red wine influence, I would say, on this one. Petite Sirah itself tends to be a massive inky, dark purple black wine when you get 100% Petite Sirah. It's a big, bold style. It tends to have a lot of tannin to it. But it's just like high alcohol and just full of both texture and flavor when it's made into a wine. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of that did translate over here.
Yeah, I like there's even like a night like steep tea note
Hmm.
in here that I really like. It's just got some nice tannins to it.
Yeah, agreed.
In fact, I should mention since we're on the High West that hopefully this week, and forgive me if it's not this week, but we're doing a fun little promotion with High West with
Cool.
their cask strengths and their high country, which is their single malt. Fantastic, by the way. So their High
Yep.
West, their Petite Sirah, their Sauvignon Blanc, and the Midwinter's Night Dram. If you buy a bottle of those while supplies last, you'll get a set of glassware and matching ice molds so you can make pretty drinks all season long or give them away
Cool.
and let them make pretty drinks. So I'm hoping those will get dropped off this week. So yeah.
What kind of glasses are there? Are they giving us? Do you know?
They're like whiskey rocks glasses.
Cool.
Yeah. So it should be like a set of two glasses, two molds
Nice.
with the purchase of those bottles. So we're hoping to sell out, at least give it all away
Nice.
at the
Yeah,
very least.
High West is a cool distillery, and I've never been down
Mhm.
there. I'd love to visit, but they definitely started their life more on the blending side of things. I think their distillery opened around might have been around 2009. It's been open for quite a while, but they've still continued to uh, have a big focus on the blending side as well, which I really appreciate because they've always, like I said, been fantastic blenders on the rye and the bourbon side, and putting together special releases like Midwinter Night's Dram with the rye
Yeah.
finished in port casks and such. Um,
Yeah.
thank you, Jeff.
And
2007 was that Jeff? Is that 2007 when the company was founded, or 2007 when the distillery opened? Um,
come
I
on,
think the distillery opened
liquid, no
afterwards, but
liquid.
I could be wrong. I trust your fact checking though. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they've always done great stuff. They've been in and out of our market multiple times as they've changed distributors and stuff like that. Um, uh, they uh, they are owned now by Constellation, which is a massive wine group. But it's the nice thing is they've got a good amount of funding to it as well.
I
Um,
wonder if
but
that's where their casks come from.
could be it'd be a
'Cause,
pretty good source, that's for sure.
Yeah, because the one thing that's not set in stone in the American whiskey industry as the Scotch industry is there's no set time for finishing. You can finish your whiskey in a secondary cask for 1 day or 7 days or
Mhm.
7 months or 7 years. It's still considered just secondary casking. And so for these
Yeah,
whiskeys, like some of them are transparent, we're 7 months in this wine cask or whatever it may be, but they don't always tell you how much influence the cask has or
yeah,
how much time it took for that influence to take place.
yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy these whiskeys, which is good because as some of you know, I was very against the use of wine casks in the American whiskey
Mhm.
industry. I still am on the fence, but
Yeah,
it's worth trying them.
yeah. Well, it's nice when it's done well like this. I think honestly, this works better than most of the Scotch whiskey wine cask finishes that I've had recently. Um, yeah, I will continue to be a big fan of High West and enjoy
Mhm.
everything they do. It'd be fun putting it in different casks, just see what kind of weirdness they could come up with.
Yeah, and I mean, I love their single malt. I think it just has a great cereal profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is super impressive. It's the one that I expected to like the least of their lineup, and it was such a surprise when we did the entire High West tasting.
Yeah.
It is a great whiskey.
Harmony.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the cask finishes, I would go back to my old rules of bourbon. It all tastes the same. So
That's right.
Well, there you go. I mean, it definitely does add a whole new level and layer to
It
the flavor.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, they were so strict and so independently not Scottish with their bourbon by not allowing these casks. And then,
Mhm.
I mean, the finishing industry in Scotland, in and of itself, is not that old of a practice. I think it's been like
No.
40 years. Um, really started with Glenmorangie and Ardbeg. But
Mhm.
then it was like the double wood Balvenie that really took it off and like I don't know why exactly that one did it, but it became that standard of like the finishing, the double wood.
Yep.
And then only recently did that make its way to North America. And it just it seems so funny to me because it clearly is something that imparts flavor. And we talked about it a little bit in the Cadenhead's tasting that sometimes they ship casks for finishes bone dry, which sucks
Mhm.
for them because like how long has it been bone dry and what can I expect from this? But then other times they're not rinsing them or dumping them out and they're, a
Yeah,
third
they're
full. And it is expected that you dump that liquid out before you fill it. But I mean, if there's that much in there already, it's you dump it and you fill it the same day, it's gonna suck out a lot of that
Mhm.
initial spirit. So it
Yeah,
can
I'm
add
sure
a
the
huge difference to the spirit.
I'm sure the likes of Glenallachie and Glendronach and stuff, there's not a lot of it being dumped out before they add the whiskey.
Well, I remember, oh goodness, I don't remember what tasting it was on, but they were saying that they ordered a rum cask for a finish and it was like half full.
Yeah,
And so they've
yeah.
been drinking like cask strength rum in private because they have this like jug of it now.
Mhm.
And it was like really old Jamaican rum. Do you remember that? I can't remember who we were talking
It
to,
wasn't
but
Docks, was it?
maybe. No, maybe. I
I
don't know
think
if
we
it
heard that when
was.
we were down in Doc Swinson's or at Distiller's Way, but I could be wrong.
It,
Um,
it was a lot. And I
speaking
love
of, yeah, speaking of wine finishes, let's go on to Doc's.
mm,
Doc Swinson's is probably, it might just be the best at cask finishes or among the best in the world at this point. Definitely one of the best, if not the best in the US. They tend to do a fantastic job with being so hands-on and careful and with their approach and very methodical in their approach to filling casks, and also being utterly mad as they do it. There's this great balance of science and craziness that just seems to happen in that warehouse. That makes them so fun to talk about and so fun to try their stuff. So this
Yeah.
is a Moscatel finish, bourbon. So Doc Swinson sources, I think they do a few different mash bills, if I remember correctly, from the bourbon and the rye side of things that they source from MGP Distillery in Indiana. They do not have stills of their own, but they do manage to procure a ton of different casks to experiment and mature whiskey in, and Moscatel is one of them. A little bit of going into like a lemon pledge note on the nose on this right off the hop for me.
Yeah, it reminds me of this beeswax polish
Yeah.
that I used to have to use when I cleaned houses.
Jeff, are you saying they don't source from MGP anymore, or that it's not called MGP anymore?
Well, it's not called MGP anymore.
Who bought out MGP?
It's like Swillers or something. It's not that, but it's like that. We've talked about this.
Is it super recent? Because I don't recall
Yes.
this. I know
Yes.
MGP has.
You do know we've talked about this, but it's like it's very recent.
So as far as I know, MGP is still so MGP is Midwest Grain Products is the company. They still own MGP Distillery.
Yeah.
They have renamed or rebranded the distillery since purchasing Luxco as Ross and Squibb Distillery.
That's it, the squib. That's the one.
So they use Ross and Squibb though for their own product. MGP would still be the name of the product that's been sent to others, as far as I know.
Right. That sounds right. Yeah. What they keep for themselves, they're going to now rename Ross and
When
Squibb.
they do their own releases.
Right.
So they kind of purchased Luxco, which gave them massive distribution and also gave them a company used to branding whiskey and bourbon with 70 years of history doing that. They also recently purchased Penelope as well. So they have that brand now too.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This has like a nice, like kind of warm mustiness to it, but it's not over the top. It's just has a bit of
there's
like quality.
There's still a little bit of lemon on the palate, but more into like a lemon tea note and even into chamomile tea. Very steeped on the palate. Kind of like not subtle, but not like in your face wine notes either. Like just kind of settles in a really cool manner.
There's like a nice nuttiness to this too.
Yeah.
Like macadamia nuts.
Oh, good call. Yeah.
Just feels
Macadamia, a little bit of roasted almonds in there too. Oh, that's killer.
Yeah, it has a really nice long finish and a little bit of spices in there.
Just a little bit of red fruit coming in there as well. Like just a touch of, well, not even red fruit, going into like blueberries on the finish for me. Apple for you, did you say? Sorry?
Yeah, apples.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just like it.
Alex asking how old's the Doc Swinsons, wondering what it would be like if it was a bit older. Let me see if they actually say on the website here. I don't think they do. High rye bourbon, finished in Moscatel, 52.65% alcohol. No, after several months of aging, expressive notes of orange, zest, honey, and toffee complement the rich spices of Doc Swinson's bourbon. I think most of what they put into cask tends to be at least 3 or 4 years old, if I remember correctly. And yes, I can show
Yeah,
you the
it's kind
bottle
of
there.
average. There's lots of honey on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of flowery, but it's not over the top.
So this is from the last batch of these labels I think we're going to see from Doc Swinson's, because they seem to be undergoing a little bit of a label change as well. I do like this sort of like
I like it a lot. I think
fancy-ish, like simplified, like clean style that it has.
Jesse said that they kind of got some flack on it because it had 7 different fonts.
Yeah.
Like
Should have gone for 8.
apparently
I totally
that
disagree. Yeah.
I know. Well, it was 8 on our label.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it's too many fonts
Mm.
for some people. But I've always liked the exploratory casks, and I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
they are cam converters as well.
Yep.
So I'm forever grateful for Docs.
Well, that was with me too. And I'm just like transported back to our trip there every time I try one of their whiskeys.
Yeah.
We got to try an absolutely stupid amount of different whiskeys while we were down there over a period of like maybe 4 hours
Maybe
in the warehouse.
there a while. Yeah.
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 But every single thing that we tried from them was just like super exciting and just incredibly well done from the cast samples we had. Like I said, they're crazy guys, but they seem to have a method to their madness.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows with the method here, because this is just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, it's really nice. Mm.
Well, let's go a little bit more traditional with the next one, on to chapter 8 of Little Book.
I'm so happy we put this in,
Yeah, me too.
because as most of you know, and if you're new, you don't know that Evan and I will advertise a bourbon tasting and throw in at least 1, sometimes 2 or more rye,
Yeah,
because we love them, and not so many people like the ryes the way we do until they try them. And then a lot of
yep,
the times you can appreciate what they are. But we also just in Canada have a lot of bad examples of rye historically. So what I
yep.
love about this Little Book Chapter 8 Path Not Taken bourbon is it's mostly rye. But
Mhm.
its main component is this 18-year-old straight bourbon whiskey with a high rye mash bill. And then everything else is layered in with different ages and finishes and malts of rye, kind of showcasing that initial spirit that kind of turned everyone onto whiskey to begin with. So
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah,
it.
kind of there's bits and pieces here, and I'd love to try them side by side, but I don't have any of it left. But there's bits and pieces of this that remind me of chapter 2, which was the first chapter of Little Book that we saw in Canada. We never got any chapter 1, unfortunately, but chapter 2 was is probably still my favorite of what's now 8 chapters deep, because it featured essentially 40-year-old Canadian corn whiskey, probably a little bit of the stuff that went into Canadian Club 40-year-old. And I think it was like 14-year-old 100% rye from Alberta Distillers. Since Little Book is made by Jim Beam. Jim Beam also owned Alberta Distillers before their company was merged or bought by Suntory, who's now the owner. But they have access to all this incredible whiskey, not just within Beam's plant or distilleries in Kentucky, but also in Canada as well. It would have been neat to see some of the Canadian rye in here too, but all this is Kentucky rye between 4 and 18 years old, and bottled at high proof as well, 59.1% alcohol.
Yeah, this is it smells like sweet rye. Like
It does.
and it's still got this like beautiful spicy burnt orange oils and
Yeah.
the
It's got a little
dirtiness.
bit of like actual Christmas candy canes, but also the candy canes that you can get that are made with different fruits or different flavorings.
Oh, like
And
the
it, like
red
there's a
candy
touch,
canes.
yeah, like a touch of mint in there, but some other notes like that too. It's a little bit sort of leathery and dusty in there, but it still comes off as juicy at the same time.
It kind of smells like that Goo Gone after you've rubbed whatever stuck to your floor with it a little while.
Yeah. On that, the palate is just beautiful, beautiful rye. Um,
Yeah,
so
David said
there's
beautifully oily mouthfeel, and I couldn't
yeah,
agree more.
there's definitely some different rye mash bills in here. Most of this was likely made at Beam's main distillery facility in Claremont. But they do talk about a high rye bourbon mash bill in here from the 18-year-old, but then I am not sure which it talks about Kentucky family style and Pennsylvania family style rye being used. The Pennsylvania rye, I think, would be the old Overholt mash bill that they have, and I'm not sure what percentage the rye is in there. Is probably higher than their Kentucky style rye, which would be used in the likes of Jim Beam's rye and Knob Creek rye, I'm guessing.
Okay.
But whatever it is, there's definitely some corn in here as well and some malted barley.
Mhm.
But the rye is what sings, and it's what should sing in this.
Yeah, Alex says there's like a nice old wood at the finish of this. Like I think
Yeah.
that's an 18-year-old bourbon barrel showing through. And there's also it's like a minty eucalyptic white
Yes.
glue note
Ooh,
verging on
nice.
hand lotion. Like it's
Yeah.
just kind of like almost like Vaseline hand lotion, you
Mhm.
know?
That's a good call.
It's a good note.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a little bit of lanolin in there as well, but yeah, that mint eucalyptus, like slightly cooling menthol note that you get like when you breathe in after tasting this, where it just cools down your mouth is really neat as well. A little bit of a Jolly Rancher note where it's just like almost like sweetly cloying on the palate, but then lets
Right?
go.
The nose is beautiful.
Nice bit of like I'm thinking some sort of green tea here, Jeff. Some sort of like hyper fresh green tea, not smoky green. Maybe you got a name for me there. Hmm. That is killer stuff.
Mm-hmm. Really like this.
Yeah, that might be my favorite little book since chapter 2.
Wow. A lot of reading to get to this point.
Yeah. So Jeff says TY is pre-Qingming first flush typing.
What, did you just throw pans down the stairs? What is that?
This
Is this
is
in the
I know my
box?
whiskey, I don't know my tea, but that whatever it does, I want to try that tea now.
I
You
know.
probably
Is this
gave me
in the
some,
box
Jeff.
of teas
Yeah.
that he gave us?
But it does
There's
have
some in the
that
box. Wicked.
light, fresh green tea note that's just
Yeah.
gorgeous in there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
that's
fantastic.
a stunning whiskey.
I see why we sold out so fast.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
we'll get more.
Yes, we will.
I'm pretty sure it's still available. So good thing, because that's for
Mhm.
$210, I think that actually is pretty reasonable.
I think so. It's very good.
Yep.
It's got a
Okay, let's go
thick
back
finish
to
goes on.
yeah. Yeah, nice lengthy finish. I love that sort of like candied citrus and mint that's there at the finish.
Yeah.
Let's go back to docks.
We're going back?
I
No,
think
we're
this is
going
the
forward to dock.
yeah. Let's go
Oh, you
forward. Let's
scared
go back
me.
to docks. Yeah.
It's like, why are we going
So this
backwards?
is Doc Swinson's Forest and Fable bourbon with number 2. It is a Garyana oak finish. Gary oak or Garyana oak being a genus of oak from the Pacific Northwest, grown in Oregon, or that grows in Oregon primarily, as well as Washington and even into BC.
Mm. This nose is better than it did when I first popped the bottle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll pull up the,
Which wasn't even fair because it still had like the mist coming out of the cap and you stick your
Mhm.
nose in and then you're offended by it because it's all burny and oaky. Great label too.
yeah, so this is their new look label.
All right,
Um,
so Jeff, it looks like there's more fonts on this than the
yeah,
last one, so we're
yeah,
we're still
thank
good.
goodness.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
assuming that 7 means 7 years old too.
it
See if I can zoom in on that.
years old. Yes,
Yeah,
7. And then
it's years old, 7 years
bottle
old.
April 26th, 2024 is, I think it's a 6.
Yeah.
Could be a 5.
Yeah, I think that's about right. In my opinion, they should just get rid of this picture looking thing or wood block cutting it almost looks like here and just add another font
Maybe
to
that
the
is a
mix just for
font.
kicks. Yeah.
The font for oak.
Yeah, it's wingdings
Yeah.
that they've used there maybe. So this one is sold out again. I think we can still get more of this as well. I'd have to double check. 134.99 for this guy. 54% alcohol, lower than the Little Book by quite a bit.
Mm. Oh, it's oaky
Oaky
and
and mellow
dry.
again.
Yeah. Mellow. Yeah.
This is
The
more
nose.
straightforward than the Muscatel, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say the nose is quite muted for me, and I'm
Yeah,
not sure if
same.
I need to add water, but it just seems very standard on the nose but without kind of hitting those initial like vanilla and red fruit that is kind of standard to a lot of bourbon.
Yeah.
I'm just getting a lot of
Yeah, and it goes like it leans a bit more into like leather and clove notes for me on the nose and
yeah.
palate. Jeff says Garyana is big with Westland, but Odd Society did a release and still had accidentally ended up with a bunch of barrels. Cool. Yeah, I've had a couple different releases of the Westland Gary Oak or Garyana. Their single malt style makes it much sweet forward than this one is. I would say Westland single malt. Their malt style tends to be pretty sweet to start with, I find, and then putting it in Gary Oak kind of amps that up.
Yeah. This has a lot of cinnamon.
Yeah, cinnamon is a really good call. Even like cinnamon stick, more notes than the fake cinnamon that we get.
Yeah, yeah, like real cinnamon. Jim's liking the nose on this.
Yeah, I think I prefer the nose on the Little Book, but this has just like that mellow style of nose of bourbon that's always fun to come into.
More leathery, and I'm still getting like a menthol like note, like tea and tannin notes.
Yep.
Maybe it's a little bit more like echinacea
Ooh, good
for
call.
me.
Yeah. So we're building our immune systems as we're drinking here. It's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's medicinal now.
Yep. Yeah, the nose isn't like going off in a lot of different directions for me, but it's just really enticing and fun to dive into.
Yeah, it is. It's really pleasant.
It's got a little bit of like a buttery and butterscotch note underneath the cinnamon, but not like heavy and like jumping out at you.
Yeah, it's more toast, like just
Yeah,
like toast.
yeah.
It's not even buttery for me. I wish it was maybe a little buttery, maybe with time,
Mhm.
but buttery toast would be nice. With cinnamon on it.
Yeah.
Maybe some brown sugar.
Yeah,
Not
it's
related.
like a two toasted toast. It's like you tried to make toast, but ended it up with a crouton and then put butter on it.
Aaron and Brennan say it reminds them of the Carl T cigar batch. Oh,
Good
very
call.
interesting. Did they use Garyana or Amberana with the
I
cigar
think they probably
batch?
used Amberana, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Yeah. Still good whiskey. Those
Yeah.
those Carl T bottlings from Starlight, they can get like really oaked, really influential with their casks, which I mean, take it or leave it, but I feel like if you're a cocktailer, they're also a great way to go. Because
Yeah,
you can do a
that's
lot
a
with
good call.
a little. Yeah.
I didn't mind the Carl T stuff. I definitely have a more of a soft spot for what's the other is it Indiana distillery? That's smaller there. Brought in by Evergreen as well.
New riff.
New Riff, of course. That's
Yeah.
Kentucky, but I was thinking the guys that make the Matty Gladden.
Oh, spirit of something.
Yeah, it's French Lick. Yeah, Spirit of
French
French Lick.
lick. Spirit of French lick. Yeah.
Need to try more of their stuff, but the Matty Gladden I absolutely love.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had some good samples from them come through, but
Mhm.
pricing doesn't always make sense in our market as it does down there with all their many more options.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, let's
The
move
next,
forward once again to go back to Redwood Empire.
but this time we're going to do the Dream Cask Strength bourbon.
Yeah, the Pipe Dream.
Pipe Dream. I didn't see that word completely. Missed it on my label. It's there. I just didn't see it.
So this is Pipe Dream, a cask strength version of it. I'll share my screen here. Oh, that's Grizzly Beast again. I was like, I don't think this uses the same mash bill because I believe it is a blend of bourbons. Could be wrong. Pretty sure this is a blend of bourbons because they don't say straight anywhere on there. So there's a multitude of ages happening here, including some younger stuff. This is the Pipe Dream cask strength bourbon age between a blend of bourbons between 4 and 14 years from a mash bill that ends up being 73% corn, 18% rye, 5% malted barley, and 4% wheat. So likely some of their own stuff in there, but also some source bourbon as well.
This one has,
Again,
what is the nose that I'm getting on this?
it's going like tea-like again, but there's some pineapple and lychee in there.
I was going to say pineapple, and I thought maybe I'm very wrong. Yeah. There's also a little sunscreen note in there.
Mm-hmm. Some burlap sacks.
Candy corn.
Yep. Yeah, candy corn's a good call. Like candy corn that you're trying to ferment into something alcoholic. There's some yeast notes in there as well for me right now.
It is. It's kind of doughy, like wet
Yeah.
cinnamon bun that hasn't completely cooked.
Jeff says candy corn is a seasonally appropriate tasting note.
Oh,
Well, we're
cool.
rarely appropriate, but seasonally appropriate is pretty good.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll take it.
A little bit of like a Melba toast on there, Melba cracker.
Yeah,
Something
and
multigrainish.
I think, I mean, it's not just, there's a little bit of that like toast, like pencil shaving kind of flaky wood note.
David says sipping these along with Redemption 10-year-old barrel proof high rye bourbon at 57.2. The Redemption's holding its own against some of the great stuff here. I quite like what I've seen from Redemption, and we will eventually start carrying more of their stuff. Right now I'm utterly smitten still with their wheated bourbon release.
Yeah.
It's fantastic stuff, but we've tried I think it was a cognac cask finish and a rum cask finish that were both pretty good too.
Those are the ryes. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. The nose on this is very cool. There's a lot going
Mhm.
on, a lot of candy. It's like, I don't know, it's like apricot jam on toast, on
Yeah,
like a rye
good
toast.
call.
Mm.
It still has a bit of pineapple on the palate as well. It starts and then it leaves back a bit on the finish. A little bit of fruit cup syrup, and there are some peaches in there as well. Cheers,
Um,
David. Glad you enjoyed that.
there's also like,
Big time cinnamon again.
yeah, big cinnamon, and I might be going a little bonkers, but there's a little savory something in here that on the exhale reminded me of like chicken bouillon cubes.
Nice.
Jim's like, no, stop drinking. You're done. Don't put that in my mind.
I would say it's going more into I can see where you're going, but it's almost like you have a mixed batch of chicken wings in front of you. Some are salt and pepper, and some of them are honey garlic.
Ooh, uh, almonds coming through on the
Mhm.
chat as a note. Very good.
Nice.
Jim says it sweetens as you drink more. Yeah,
I'm gonna
I can
try
see
just
it.
a bit of the bottled and bond Redwood Empire next to this one just for kicks. Oh man, you go back to the nose on the bottled and bond, and it's just all it is the like angel food cake and the birthday cake, Tim Hortons Timbits.
Totally is. I wasn't with you on the first pass, but I'm with you now. We'll go back to that. If
It just noses like it's gonna be sweet, sweet, sweet.
yeah. I know some of you have only one
Oh,
glass, so we'll have to do a comparison later.
yeah. Um,
Definitely
I
worth it.
just tried the bottled and bond again, and it is full on angel food cake and birthday cake Timbits on the palate too. It's crazy.
Mm, yum. Oh yeah, it's
That
super
that
sweet.
savory note comes out more after going back to the cast strength bourbon.
It's the cast strength bourbon or the Grizzly blend has a little bit of like green apple Jolly Ranchers on it now for me.
Mhm.
But the
That the Redwood Empire, I think the the cast strength is probably the driest of what I've had so far,
mm-hmm.
but I really like what's there. A little bit of a cherry wood note in there as well. Tasty stuff. Really happy with this lineup, and I think next up is the one that you're probably most excited for, Harmony.
Yep, I like it. This I voted against myself in a high stakes whiskey contest for this for this one.
Nice.
I could have had the wrestling belt if I had voted differently, perhaps, but
Mhm.
this really won me over that day.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the Laws 4 Grain Cast Strength Bourbon, and Laws is out of Denver, Colorado. And this is a beautiful 3-year-old bourbon, 60% corn, 20% heirloom wheat, 10% heirloom rye, heirloom, sorry, and then 10% heirloom malted barley, bottled at 57.9%. There's
Mhm.
a lot of heirlooms there, which is a fancy way of saying a grain that has not been grown for a long time, just kind of
Yeah.
revived for the purpose of distillation,
So
which is
this bottling was this cask was selected by the Park Whiskey Society, PWS Spirits or Imports at Imports Laws. They did a fantastic job picking this one. Um, Laws is a distillery that I haven't delved into too much. I've liked the little bit I've tried to from them, but I haven't really uh, had chance to pay too much of attention to it. But Colorado seems to be just a hotbed of whiskey distillation, which is really, really cool. Some great distilleries in that state.
this is so much drier and more like traditional on the nose than like the
Mhm.
ones we've played with so
Yeah.
far.
Big
It's
time.
like,
Jeff, is your unwashed potatoes and wood shavings a note for this one?
yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
note.
nice. It is totally a really good note. Yeah, I was going with some root vegetable notes there, and it has this, like there's malted barley in there, but it seems like there's a lot of unmalted grain notes in there too, like just fresh from the back of the bin in the tractor, I guess.
It does. It's got a lot of farminess to
Yeah.
it and a
Farming
combination
nut,
of like
yeah,
wet grains and dry grains like in the same
yeah,
room.
yeah. Farmy but fresh, like not farmy and like stinky,
No.
uh, as a lot of whiskey can become in a nice way too. Jeff says musty bulk corn from the hopper. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. Some nice, sort of like some nice cherry notes coming from the corn there probably as well.
This is kind of the bourbon smell where it all smells like bourbon.
Yeah, in a good way though. That's a great nose. The cherry note is almost going into like this solventy sharpie note, but not quite. It's trying. Hmm. Incredibly grain forward on the palate as well. Yeah, I guess this would be the except other than the little book, this is this is one of the three naked bourbons in the lineup, or naked whiskeys in the lineup. The little book's not really a bourbon, so
Yeah.
but yeah, that there is that farmy note coming through on the palate again, but again, not in a bad way. Almost goes into this dog biscuit note for me
I had
on
a
the
feeling you
finish.
were going to bring that up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely when in this lineup a very oak forward spirit.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of like fruit notes underneath it and like soft vanillas, but very naked.
yeah. A touch of like a Flintstones vitamin or even chewable vitamin C note on the nose and on the palate, like maybe going into a rose hip note.
Yeah, the rose hip that was on my mind a little bit, like rose oil.
Mm.
Yep, lots of green. It's got like a porridge note to it, like it was like cut oats. I don't remember.
Well, and
Every time.
you'd mentioned rose hip oils, and there's a touch of oil of oregano there as
Mm,
well.
there's
Uh,
oregano, yeah. It's definitely green a little bit. Yeah, I wish I could remember the freaking porridge my dad used to make us all the time because that's in there for me.
mhm,
But it just reminds me of like
mm.
wet pulp and
Yeah.
and yeah, that's where I grew up.
Mhm. Yeah, there's that pulpy note, some peaches and cream coming through with just a couple drops of water too.
Oh, I didn't do water. Maybe on the
This
second
one,
pass.
yeah, this one's like it doesn't need it, but it's got the strength to stick up to it, and it does just fine, in my opinion. Soft wood and cinnamon note coming through, but not as heavy on the cinnamon as the last two.
Mm-hmm. No, it's more just
Uh,
like on the long finish of it, you get the
yeah,
cinnamon. Like,
Jim Hutton's Quaker's porridge oats, that makes sense too. There is that on there. Uh, even a touch of like shredded wheat cereal in there. Almost borderline mini wheats, just not the sugary stuff.
not the sweet ones,
Yeah.
just the shreddies.
Mm. Tasty drown. So that one, I think we've got a few bottles left. I think there's only like one or two cases left in the market. that aren't on shelves yet. So this one will disappear fast, being a single cask, and justifiably so. Yeah, PWS did a great pick there. Okay, last but not least, let's head to Texas.
I've always loved this whiskey and this distillery. I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to this bottle.
With its everything's taller in Texas, super tall still,
Yeah.
apparently.
It's got a tall bottle, sort of.
Yep.
Well, it looks tall.
So this is Still Austin's cast strength bourbon. We featured this, I think, twice in previous bourbon tastings. We've also had the Still Austin rye, all of which are fantastic. I love their rye. I think it's probably one of the best ryes in the US right now, that I've had at least. Big fan of the bourbon. The last batch years ago that I had was very gin forward. It was almost going into pine and juniper notes, probably from some sort of weird barrel influence or something being a bit green on the cask, but from nosing this one, and I'm excited to dive into it as well. Again, this goes way more like earthy and roasted in style from what I recall.
Pam says turkey gravy.
Nice.
It's peppers to me, like cracked white and black peppers.
That's a good call. There's a little bit of like super dense, like this is a gluten-free Black Forest cake maybe in there.
I don't want that cake.
Yeah.
Give me gluten.
It still has the cherries. A little bit of like a peach cobbler note in there, but this like not going quite into cloves, but going in that direction, earthiness to it. Does hit more cloves on the palate. A bit of like a mesquite peppery
I was
note.
gonna say it's got a little bit
Yeah.
of heat, a little jalapeno popper bite to it.
Big time jalapeno, yeah. That's a good call too.
Holy, that's
Yeah, it does have that.
fantastic.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome.
that is really, really good. Yeah, that pepperiness is just there.
Yeah. Pair that with like a good peppercorn steak. That just sounds fabulous.
It actually the finish
That's too
reminds me
spicy.
of like a super austere Cabernet Franc with the bell pepper notes.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fantastic stuff. Yeah.
This is very different than the last batch that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also gets the tobacco notes now going back to the nose of like a Merlot. It's
and this is not
that's
a
crazy
wine
stuff.
finish.
No, it's very evocative though. It's got some great sort of like drying, savory notes that you sometimes get on wine as well. Killer dram that like completely missing the gin-like quality I remember from a previous batch. This is a great thing about batch spirits though, like this from smaller distilleries, is you will see some variation from the bottles you get off the shelf over time.
Yeah. Jeff says this would pair or would hold up well with the cigar, and I agree.
Yeah.
This would do really well.
Yeah, I'm not a cigar smoker, but I can see that working. Like it's big and chewy enough. It's got enough aromatics in there that it's not going to get drowned out by a lot either, which is really nice. It's a Texas barbecue dram. A lot of brown sugar, Jeff says. Agreed.
Yeah. It's not tannic or even as
No.
leathery as I would have thought it might be. It's just very soft and pretty, while still being like masculinely forward and peppery. Like it's got a really nice structure to it. Yeah,
That's one of the coolest bell pepper notes that I can recall having on a whiskey. It's really neat stuff.
I would agree. I've never seen you do that, like wheel around your office there in your chair before. I didn't even know that chair moved
Yeah.
on wheels. Did you just
Gonna
add
add a bit of
water?
water to this just for kicks.
Join you. Got a little bit of like wax crayon right as I inhaled before the water, which is nice.
That actually does, that's a good call. It's like you're melting down a bunch of different colors of wax crayons.
Yeah, it's brown now.
Yeah. Also, it's like you're creaking open like a giant barn door
Barn.
on like a barn. Thank you. I was gonna say shed, but barn makes more sense. Jim Hunt is shaking his head. Jim, my vocabulary is going. We're eight in. It happens. That bell pepper note's still there. It does have this like old dusty hay note that comes along though that I like.
Mm. Yeah, really good. Goes
That killer stuff. Well, let's jump through them all again quickly, starting at number one, just to see how things have changed, and then we'll trigger the vote.
Yes, this is the lightning round. For those of you with one glass, I hope they're not screwed on because we're gonna just shot
That's
after
right.
shot after shot. Then you're sitting there.
I can't believe how birthday cake Timbit that is.
This is all candy
Yeah.
now after smelling everything else.
I'm gonna have to like leave. Sometimes I'll leave some whiskey in the glass, not to give to my kids, but for nose.
Like
I do it with mine
educational
as well. Yeah,
purposes.
I'm just trying to develop their nose and palate without getting them into
Smart.
straight alcohol yet. But I want to see if they get birthday cake Timbits on this.
Yeah,
They'll say it just smells like Bottle Depot, probably, which is what my son usually says. So
that's so funny. We should give this to Chris after it sits for a while, not right away.
yeah, tell her it's her birthday dram.
Yeah, it's the wrong brand for her though.
That's right. Back to the High West. Petite Sirah cask finish. Still has that jamminess, but it's going more into like sponge toffee and a little bit of nougat.
Oh, Cam says strawberry shortcake, which I think is
Ooh,
bang on.
good
It
call.
also reminds me again, and I've used this note before, but the strawberry Pocky sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Some
Strawberry
macaroons
shortcake.
or macarons in there as well. Some big almond notes. Like right now, it's if you've had like an Earl Grey tea macaron.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, still getting that blackberry jam on the palate too.
Yeah. It's better with some time.
Stays juicy, like
Really
it doesn't
like
go
that.
astringent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, this is
Going back to the docks now, there's such a like a peach tea note right now on the nose for me.
iced tea.
Iced tea is a good call. Yeah, it's like unsweetened iced tea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of got a laundry note. I
Yeah,
don't know what it is, but there's the laundry to like a bounce sheet type note on the finish of that Swinson.
yeah. It's spring fresh.
Yeah. It's gain. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Yeah. Still really like the palate on that one. It's good. Back to the little book. Huh. The little book on the nose is definitely has a lot of rye grain notes, but it does have just a touch of like melted plastic in there.
I'm getting lime zest.
Lime zest, I can see, yeah.
Pickles too. dill, I guess.
It's not melted plastic. It's the whatever type of plastic they use on in cereal bags to open it up. Like there's a little bit of that cereal bag plastic note to it for me right now. Or a heated up plastic water bottle.
Like the one that was left in your car for a few days and you
Yeah.
drink it.
Yeah. Oh, that palette.
Yeah, this Little Book rye
Such good
is
rye.
having like a checkerboard battle with my bottles right now. I just
Yeah. Yeah, I've kept mine like all straight in a row. I haven't tried to suss anything out yet, but it's
I
gonna be a
just
toughie.
started and it's really hard
Yeah.
because I like them all for different things.
Back to the Doc Swinson's Forest and Fable. There is a little bit of like you just toss some not wet moss, but still green moss on a campfire note right now on the nose on this one.
Now I'm getting totally different vibe. I'm getting a pecan butter tart.
Oh, David says he's still struggling with the first two tonight. Well, if it's a struggle, just head for redemption, man. That's all you can do.
Is that when you just mix it all together, drink it?
No, he's got his Cask Strength Redemption open with him, so
Oh, right. Well, that's a good bottle too. Mm.
I like the Forest and Fable. Between the two docks, I prefer the Moscatel, at least right now.
Yeah. We didn't plan to do this many wine finished whiskeys in a
No,
tasting. It just happened to be this way.
that's
That's
right.
the market right now. They're really leaning into finishes and cocktailing and just doing things differently than they have for the past 100 years. So this is what we get, and
And it's
I've been enjoying it,
yeah,
surprisingly.
they've kind of been forced to like there's I wouldn't say that the bourbon market is saturated up here, but there's definitely a ton more releases than we used to get, and the fight to differentiate yourself versus competitors does make you try and do some different innovations and different stuff with the whiskey, especially if you're sourcing it from somewhere else. You don't want to just release oh yeah, this is the best cask we got from MGP kind of deal all
Right.
the time. So you gotta put some spin on it. Although I would happily drink Cask Strength single cask MGP bourbon from anybody. Just putting that out there for those that do
Yeah.
want to just bottle them naked. Back to the Redwood Cask Strength Pipe Dream. There's like a touch of cranberry in this, but it goes, if you've ever had dried goji berries, there's that on the nose right now for me.
Ooh. The
Yeah,
palate on
Buzzards
this
Roost
feels,
does do some good stuff.
the palate feels muted for me. I mean, I know I'm getting Tony's cold. It's so rude. I know I am.
Damn it, Tony.
I know, I can feel it just like today. I did not want this for Thanksgiving.
Tony, as Harmony's work husband, I feel it's my job to give her all the sicknesses out of my household,
That's
not for
right.
her to bring it to me.
Right? You have the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is still like I'm struggling
Yeah.
to find notes on the nose, but what I do get, I'm enjoying.
Yeah. It does have some nice soft peaches and cream and cinnamon notes on the palate for me. Cinnamon very strong
Yeah,
with the Redwood
tons
Empire.
of cinnamon.
Says Alec Yoda there.
But there's also like a nutty nougat note. Is this your
There's a
PB
bit of
and
nuttiness in
J?
there.
Is this your PB&J bottle from
No,
before?
the PB&J was the High West Petite Sirah first time through. I think it's kind of lost it.
I think it's now here is the
Yeah,
PB&J.
it's transferred.
Yeah.
Deborah Thorne says yes, nutty nougat. Good call.
Thank you. Hey, David, we
Yeah,
don't
almost.
have to agree with the whiskeys as long as you
Yeah,
buy the whiskey and I buy the whiskey. We're winning.
that's right.
That's what
A
we
little bit
want.
of a hazelnut note in there too on the finish.
That's my nougat.
Good call.
Okay.
Okay, back to the laws.
I'm at this point in the night where I'm trying to figure out um if my empty glasses are empty because I liked them or because I was trying to find notes, right? Because like sometimes you just keep tasting because you have a hard time finding
Yeah,
notes. And 8 cast strength whiskeys later, it's hard to keep your thoughts straight.
yeah,
And the bottles just keep shifting.
that's right. It's kind of like a little horse race you have going on your
Yes.
table there. Yeah. Say the mini Kentucky Derby.
That's right.
This laws is still full on like the most grain forward whiskey in the lineup, and
It's so great forward.
it's
It like doesn't
it's
belong in
really nice
this
stuff.
kind of. It's
Yeah,
like it's so out of place.
yeah, yeah. It's the only one in the lineup, although still Austin does use 100% Texas grain, if I remember correctly. But it's the one in the lineup that just absolutely screams farm to glass, stylistically.
Yeah. Jeff says this is still potato.
Yeah,
And I love potatoes. So
yeah.
I'm okay with that. Potato water.
It's kind of gone half and half now. Like it's half like potatoes you just pulled out of the ground, pulled out of the
Yeah.
earth, and then
Yeah.
it's half the raw and cut potatoes that you just are tossing into the deep fryer.
It smells like jicama,
Ooh, nice call.
that boring, crunchy vegetable.
Mhm. David says I should have been a farmer, love the laws. Does it, so
Yeah.
is that the one in the lineup that holds up to the redemption for you, David?
Interesting.
Jeff's creating a plate of food for us with this whiskey tasting. Thank you, Jeff. I
Yeah.
get where you're going with that. God, that peppery, like full on. Now it is just a blend of Merlot and Cabernet Franc on the nose with those tobacco and bell pepper leafy notes.
Oh, you're into the
Oh,
still Austin, I can tell.
yeah, that is such a gorgeous note.
Oh, I
So
love this
unique.
nose. Oh,
We might have to mention this note when we ask for cast samples just for kicks.
I know, but how do we get green pepper and peaches in the
Yeah,
same bottle?
that's right.
And do we
We asked
want
for
to?
we asked for a blend with rye. I think is what we do.
Oh, the
Gorgeous stuff.
palette is so good. It's got this like lift you up quality about it.
Yep,
Yeah. And
man.
those bell pepper notes are just wild.
Yeah, that is
I'm
a
gonna,
crazy fun lineup. Alex says this time I get the green pepper in a very nice way, right on. David said he holds up to the redemption, very cool. Well, I did make a poll for this one. I did keep it simple and not add a third question. Guess I haven't been feeling too creative lately. But the
happens.
poll is up for you guys to vote. Well, the vote is happening. Harmony,
Oh
can you
man.
narrow it down to a top 2 or top 3?
Based on the Kentucky horse race or in front
Mhm.
of me, the Still Austin, I think, is my favorite. And then I'm kind of a three-way tie by the looks of it,
Mhm.
which is not helping, but
Yeah,
possibly the High West Petite Sirah is second. But it could be the Pipe Dream or the Little Book. They're all very close.
Nice.
And they also have the least in their glasses, but I don't know. The Little Book was awesome. Like find myself voting on the whiskeys on things I want to share with Tony. And
Mhm.
he and I don't often agree on whiskey and the notes that I want aren't necessarily the notes that he wants. So if I was going to share with Tony, I would do the High West Petite Sirah or the Redwood Grizzly Beast because they're a little bit sweeter
Nice.
and softer. But if it was just fully about me, it'd be Still Austin and Little Book.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just went back and nosed the Little Book, and it's almost like you made a mint julep and dumped like a half a glass of Riesling, German Riesling in it, where you get this like weird like Vaseline / petrol note along with the mint. But it works so well. My favorite is going to be the Little Book. It just barely edges out the Still Austin, but I just love that. The palate especially just kills.
Yeah.
Still Austin is my second favorite, and then Doc Swinson's is the Moscatel finish is my third.
Cool.
Definitely wouldn't have a problem with anybody handing a glass of any of these to me though. So there you go. Well, we did get 11 out of 11 people voting here. So I'll end the poll and share it. We have a runaway with the first winner, our first round with the Little Book Chapter VIII. The rye getting a lot of love in this one. The Still Lost in Cask Strength coming in second. And surprisingly, the Law is getting no votes on that one. Or the Docks or the High West.
That's it. I'm
Divided
leaving.
between four. Yeah, that's right. I'm out. Second place is a tie between the High West Petite Sirah Cask Finish and the Little Book and the Law's 4-grain. A
Woohoo.
three-way tie for second place there.
It's fun.
Yeah, killer lineup.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another one of these soon, maybe on the blind side again, maybe in January. But it was fun to not have to worry about what it was as I was tasting it this time around and just focus on the whiskey.
Yeah. No, I think I do love the blind because I always come in with opinions when I know what things
Yep.
are. And I think we all, like, if we would have put together a tasting and was like, hey, we're going to do 3 or 4 wine cask finished bourbons, and people, I know we put it out there, but if we had advertised it that way, I don't think it would have got the same response. Wine cask bourbons. But I like it, and they all showed really well. Even the like straightforward laws showed really well, even though it was like it didn't feel like it fit in the lineup, but in the context of
No,
bourbon, it's still bourbon.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Some fantastic bourbon, and there's some really good value in there as well. The link that I just put in there is a link to all 8 of the bottles that are in the lineup. A couple are up on pre-order because they are out of stock currently, but we should be able to get more, I believe. We'll double check that before billing you for it.
Yeah.
Please keep in mind, if you're looking for our whiskey calendar, that's not a whiskey calendar this year, it's a whiskey tasting. If you're looking to join us for some tastings in December, we already sorted the lineup out for that, and it's going to be a fun one. Like last year, we're pouring our own bottles. They're not going to be mini bottles that we sourced. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get some good whiskey, or at least if you like the stuff that we pick, you'll probably be pretty happy. Thank you, Harmony, for joining me on this crusade for bourbon again.
You're welcome.
As usual.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you all for putting up with the both of us. Cheers, guys.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.